Okay, so let's take this and pop it into Deforum. Oh, I do want to point out one thing. 26.3 years old. The reason why I did that is Stable Diffusion thinks 30 is 50 and 20 is 16. So I really like, to me, it's like there's a range and you can kind of like dial it in. And I wanted to try like using a decimal place because it was so ridiculous going from like 25 to 26.
Absolutely. Had
Yeah.
the same thing. I thought, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay, so I'll try to zoom things in for people on the stream. Sorry about that. And let's take a look at Deforum here. So I just want to make sure we have the video that we're going to use, and let's take a look. Okay.
Yeah, so this video is from Pexels. I just took it into After Effects. I made it 24 FPS, and I made it much shorter than just so it's 6 seconds times like 24 frames. That'll be a little bit faster for people to render and test.
Yeah, and this is great for testing things because you want something short. You don't want to have to wait, spending all that time and money generating something just written on.
Actually, Revolved, do me a favor, right? Just double check the frame rate on that. Is it 24? Just so we can do the math.
It's the one you sent me.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. Just because I've noticed that there is a real issue with the frame rate. Even if it's 1 frame off, you start getting these echoes of hybrid flow mask. It's something that I want to debug with you, but let's double check that so I'm not mistaken. And then once we have the frame rate, we can derive it. Right, there we go. So it's 144 frames roughly. It's 6 point something seconds, but it's going to be important to note that because we're going to do something called, we're going to use frame sync to schedule CFG, strength, comp mask alpha, and do a bunch of stuff. So you kind of want a rough frame range to be able to input the values correctly. So definitely double check the frame rate of your video, and also get that math kind of put down in the little notebook. So the next thing to do is, if you guys want to follow along, if you're in Discord and you can hear me, hopefully, you can go into, what is it? If you're in Creators Club.
I posted the video in the chat, by the way, so people can download it and try it out.
I guess, yeah, there's a whole series of steps called Powerful Style. If you search for this in Discord, sorry. If you search for this in Discord, you'll find the list of steps and settings that I started to use, so you can kind of get that going. But anyway, let's get to it. So steps are the same. The height here is 512 by 960. So just a basic 2x3. Let's leave restore faces off because I've started to notice that it really actually messes with your stuff once you're trying to get tight in there.
Oh yeah.
Tiling is not great yet, and takes a lot more time. And then I just love the name Ancestral ETA scheduling. But
we are using an Ancestral sampler here. So hold on, I wonder.
I have yet to figure out how it's working.
In the latest version, they said it's a noise multiplier. I guess we don't want a noise multiplier.
That's a little scary because there already is a noise multiplier in there. Okay, so keyframes, 3D wrap,
and we always do 3D. Okay, no matter what you're doing, 3D is the mode. Interpolation mode, not.
Nope.
Video input, no. 2D,
nope.
Nope. Just 3D all the time. 3D.
Yeah. Okay. 2D does some really funny stuff. I actually tried like comic book illustration in 2D, and it does it pulls up some more interesting stuff, but it's not great. So cadence 1, max frames 144, roughly the amount of the video, just so we're looking at it all the time. Guided images, no. It doesn't matter really. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Strength. So I think let's run a test without the scheduling, and then let's do the scheduling in a whole pass, because we're going to do 4 or 5 different types of scheduling. Let's zero out the zoom.
Yep.
And then let's make coherence video input.
Yeah, so this is the color right? We want to keep it the same as the color of the video input.
Exactly. And then for anti-blur, I took your advice and kind of played with this a bunch. So I zeroed it out, actually. It actually, well, let's see what it does. But I've been zeroing it out just to start by default.
Yep.
Because, but I also tried to put it at 1 yesterday because it's very, no one can hear me, huh? In Discord. I think you have to hear me on YouTube, right? Is that how?
No, that's not true. Oh, are you muted in Discord?
I might be muted. Yeah.
Well,
Is it going to
unmute.
double up if I unmute?
No, that's why I turned your user volume off.
Test, test. Can people hear me now?
There you are. There you are.
Oh no, I'm an idiot. It's one of those mornings. Sorry, y'all.
It's not. It's a really complicated setup that's unnecessary. Sorry, everyone. Okay.
So Echo, thanks for saying that because I've been I've been making good jokes. Anyway,
that's too bad. Everyone heard me talking to like my imaginary friend for a while.
Exactly. Imaginary level. Well, anyway, hope everybody's having a great day.
Yeah. No, thanks everyone. All right, we'll do this. We'll start from where we are at. We've got the video. We're going through the settings. We talked about anti-blur, which is just like turning off this anti-blur as an option. So for hybrid video, actually seen that may be able to improve things. What we're going to do is we're going to start with it on, test it. We put video input on here to keep it the same color. I would like to try some re-rolls if we're going to use some ControlNet. Apparently it really helps, but it's something we can try out. But most of this,
I haven't been able.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just that whole panel. Let's talk about it. I mean, this is Community Day, whatever. Let's just talk about it. Go down for a second, if you don't mind. Let's talk about this coherence thing and what makes me nervous about it, right? So you don't want to force color grayscale, right? You do want it to be video input. You don't want it to be legacy color match, right? So those 3 options are set. Color coherence at every n frames means you can check it every single frame, every other frame, and so on, right? That's fine. I'm just trying to figure out everything in Deforum, like literally every field and what it really does. So optical flow generation is interesting to me. So optical flow in general is an algorithm that interpolates frames, right? Mm-hmm. Is that the idea? It basically says that if you have frame 1 and frame 3, it will create frame 2 for you. Am I understanding this wrong, or do you have a different understanding of it?
No. My understanding is it's a little bit different. Is that it's well, you can see in the description there, it's not creating the individual frame in between, because it's taking a frame and then warping it like closer to the previous frame. So it's not creating frames. It's using existing frames, but adding like a little bit of a blend between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're explaining it sort of in different terms, but yeah, that's how I understand it. But I'm saying it creates a fake frame. It creates like this kind of morphed frame between frame 1 and frame 3.
It doesn't create a frame though. If you put 144 frames in, you get 144 frames out. It's just like taking the diffusion of the frame and making it a little closer to the previous one. So what this will do is it kind of captures that motion of the object or the frame or whatever you want to say. It captures that motion, and by blending a little bit of that, it can help create that motion. Because if you think about Deforum, right, what you're doing is you're diffusing a bunch of images in a row. So if you just diffused 144 pictures with your prompt, there's going to be like that dancer is going to be all over the place. You saw she was doing all these different poses, doing all these different things. If there was optical flow in there, you would see that in between her and one pose and another, there would be a frame where it's closer to the previous frame. And so that gives it a closer flow. But it's not creating a frame. It's using the frames and then adding a bit of diffusion to make it closer to the previous frame.
But I'm sorry. I'm going to be just really like silly about it. Like that doesn't make sense. Like in terms of like where what is that interpolated frame? Where is that? Like if you have frame 1 and frame 2, are you talking about it's like if it's 24 frames per second, it's like 0.5, like it's like halfway between frame 1 and frame 2 is what you're
No,
saying?
it's not making a frame. So if you've got frame 1 and frame 2, it's frame 2. It's using the previous frame.
Okay. So it's defusing frame 2 and then morphing it, or what? Like, or it's
Yeah.
integrating optical flow into the diffuse of frame 2.
Yeah. It
Okay.
does it twice. So it says it takes twice as long because it generates twice in order to capture the optical flow from the previous image to the first generation. Then it
All
warps
right.
the previous
Yeah.
image and redoes the generation.
I was getting that blobbiness anyway. I was just trying to
Yeah,
figure it out
and
because
that's the
it looked
problem
really
is,
blobby.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we're talking about blobby, it's this sort of like jello-y sort of thing, because if you think about the optical flow, like it, it's not like it actually understands that this is a person walking. All it sees is previous image, this image, and then it tries to like figure out in between. So you get a lot of oddities.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is
I
something
think
that's
I've been
going to
trying.
improve.
Yeah.
It's going to improve over time as the AI gets better. But it's just like right now, like you can create a picture of a car and it can understand the car, but you can't be like, show me the other side of the car, because it's just like, no, no, no. I've been trained to understand what this picture of the car looks like. Like I don't necessarily understand what's on the other side of the car. I don't know if there's a dog there. I don't know if there's like lines on the road. It doesn't quite understand that. What it understands is the images it's been trained on. So it's a
Right.
bit
So
funny, but the AI is getting to that point. It just doesn't have, like we do, like a narrative in its head that's telling it what is supposed to go behind the car. Oh, if this is on a road, there's supposed to be lines on the road. It just knows the images. So,
yeah, I mean, do you care
yeah.
if I talk about
Well,
warp for a second?
let's just keep
Just
going. I don't want to get too in like we want to be creating stuff, right? So it's like the theory stuff is fun, but for the viewers, we should get something generating. Otherwise we're going to be talking theory the whole time and then get a video right at the very end, right? So
all right.
um,
Well, let's come back to this because I think it's important. But yeah, I'm okay with moving it forward.
yeah, all right, let's see. So we've got all these in here. Let's get to the prompt. I mean, we don't need to change much else at this point. We've got our standard thing. Do you just want to do a zero
No, let's do exactly what you had from
here? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pop that entire prompt in here. Boom. Particles might get a bit weird. I mean, all of this is going to be
Deforum
weird.
explodes.
Yeah. And the reason why this is going to be weird is because we're going to get a little bit of that, like every frame is a different picture sort of situation where the embeddings are going to be all over the place. And you're going to generate one and it's going to have like a roll of the dice that makes it a certain way. And the next one will have the roll of dice that makes the other way. But we'll see. Hopefully we can get some consistency out of it. And then in the negative, we're also going to do easy negative, which is an embedding. Okay, so it's a negative embedding. I did change the sampler, actually. So why don't we try
Mm-hmm.
changing the sampler? It might take a little longer, but there we go. Okay.
Okay.
And now we need to put in our video. So this is something that everyone
Mm-hmm.
asks in Discord all the time, right? Where do I do this? So here we have our video in a folder I've created called vids. I'm in the Creators Club. So every Creators Club path starts with that. Let me do vids. Singer. I think it was close, right? Singer close MP4. Okay. We're gonna take the whole.
Let me just add a note here for testing that I just never have used before, but I started using yesterday. Is you can just extract every other frame or every third frame with that extract from frame right there. Sorry, extract nth frame, that third field. You can, if you want to do quick testing with a video that's very long, it'll only extract, so here it's extracting every frame. If you make it 2, it skips a frame. If you make it 3, it skips 2 frames, etc. So I've actually started to use some of these things. I actually even tried mask in it, which is broken as hell, but yeah.
Okay, so video in it is good to go. Now we're going to do ControlNet and hybrid, right? Which one do you want to start with?
So my understanding, like during all the tests the last few nights, is that ControlNet doesn't work by itself. Like it won't go through all the images. But if we can figure that out, great. But I think hybrid first, then ControlNet. So let's just see what happens with hybrid first.
What we've noticed is that exactly like Bevel said, you need to get the video appearing in for the ControlNet to work. So if you just do ControlNet, for some reason it's not quite working. But with hybrid, we have noticed it very clearly working. It does take a lot of testing to notice it though, which is funny because for a while I was like, it's not working at all. And then LevelBevel and I sat down and just went over it in depth and did a bunch of generations. And you do notice that it's having an effect because you're changing the control nets and it's changing the image or the video, even with like the same seed and everything. So
what I learned yesterday is more hybrid settings, so I can tell you like what each of them does, and I can tell you that like the new update for Deforum throws an error, like a major CUDA error, if you run a certain setting that was prior. Like we used to be able to run both of these together, and it doesn't work anymore. So if you do normal here, generate input frames, right? First frame is in it.
This is very important. If you don't click this, it just won't create. So you absolutely have to click this button. This will make the frames that hybrid uses. So just make sure.
Yeah, and I've seen somebody post those errors where you say file type none, N-O-N-E, and that comes from not having input frames. So potentially those errors are from not having like a ControlNet input frame folder or a hybrid folder input frame. It's not all the time, but it does throw that same error. So yeah, let's hit optical flow here. So we can pull up that other thing and then unfurl the next two panels, if you don't mind.
Well, do we want to use Raft or?
Yeah, let's use Raft. I've noticed that like other, good solutions are Raft. Okay, so humans masking is a very interesting thing that I've been using lately. So obviously you can do PNGs, both video, but video will run through the whole thing and create a really pretty good MP4 of a black and white version of this video that can be used to isolate the main character. It doesn't work well with objects or animals, but it actually works great with people. So if you want to split the video later on in post to a background and a foreground, this actually creates a great video to do so. And it also works in process. However, if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see that there's this other thing. The flow consistency mask, scroll down a little bit because your panel's just a little bit squished. That's why it should be on the right for me.
No problem.
Yeah, so flow consistency mask, if you run that at the same time as human masking, it's been throwing me CUDA errors. Same thing with if you're running human mask and ControlNet, it also now throws errors. And it wasn't doing that like last week. So last week we were able to do flow consistency and human masking and ControlNet, and I was getting generations constantly locally. Now it's reliably throwing errors. So if you use human masking, be wary that it will throw you an error. But if you use human masking alone with just hybrid, you can actually extract a depth map from your video and a great comp mask alpha from your video that you can use in different ways. So you could theoretically generate a human mask, then turn off the render, turn off human mask, and then insert this human mask into video mask, and then kind of render outwards from there. So instead of having to like export all the things and recompile the video, this is a one-click solution to create like a great alpha mask for your video. It's actually really powerful. I was using it yesterday. So, but it throws an error. So what I was flow consistency mask over human mask, no video depth. I've actually realized that video depth and all that whole thing doesn't do well. It doesn't do what you think it really should do. So this is why I ran depth, I ran video depth, blend, and difference, and it gets so muddy, and that's why the generations were fluttering and getting really out of control. If you turn that off entirely and just rely on ControlNet, it's way more precise.
That makes sense.
And in fact, I learned more even about this comp alpha schedule that we were playing with and trying to lower it way too much. In fact, I was playing with oscillating it between 0.48 and 0.52 and getting better results than if you had it at 0.1 or 0.2. So it's really weird. It's like stuff that I learned just recently.
Yep, it's a murky science here, you know. I think that there's just so much stuff that's like unclear, and mixing the things together doesn't always give the results you would think. So it's always important to test this stuff, but we understand, you know, not everyone can sit here and generate tons of tests. Trying to save you some time. And it
exactly,
will update.
that's why I'm doing it for
update.
you.
You know, to let you in on something, like the latest auto update is not working in our system. So we have to like do tons of testing. We have to wait for a fix. We have to like put in requests to the GitHub. So this is something where, you know, it's updating all the time, but not everything works for us in the same way because we're running on Linux, because we're running in the cloud. Not everything's catered to what we are doing specifically. And so we really have to curate it and make sure that everything's kind of working towards what we want to do in this, for our community. A good example of that is Deforum, where, you know, now we are working directly with Deforum team to put in the upscale. We've logged the issue because upscaling is just one of those things where it's not quite working with our Linux paths. And we really want to get that fixed because there's actually like no good free video upscale tools out there from what I've seen. Excuse me. Okay, let's keep going here. So we've got hybrid video. Is there anything else in here?
Yeah, there is. So we turn off human masking here because it's going to, yeah, and let's use flow mask.
Okay.
Yeah, so flow consistency mask actually works quite well, and it works in tandem with ControlNet. And I've noticed that it just helps to turn down the blur to 0 here. Because just imagine, it's basically doing the same thing as human masking, but it's doing it with any type of object. That's, I think, the only difference here. That's why it's more powerful and less muddy. So that, yeah, and these are the new settings for default, right? Like don't use motion previous, don't use different flow methods. Like Raft is now, I think, the new standard and does better than all the others. And then, yeah, human masking is a powerful tool, but be careful because it throws errors.
Yeah. So again, we're not saying that this is the absolute 100% only way to use this. There's tons of options. Explore, but this is what Levels found has worked best, and I trust because I've seen the results. So let's get to some results here. ControlNet. We're gonna. Oh wait.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing, which is Auto 11 isn't the most updated on Run, but Deforum actually is. So the latest version of Deforum that's been downloaded that I have locally is this exact. Actually, am I wrong?
You're wrong by like because of this ancestor
5 days.
thing. Yeah,
by 7 days. Yeah, okay, by 7 days we're late, but it is
not
version
even.
3.
I think it's like 2 days or something. Yeah, but they've really increased the pace of development on Deforum I've seen in the last little while. So there's like a new version every day.
But that's why it's been throwing errors, because they've been cleaning up stuff. So it is one of the more recent builds. Anyway, so let's use just one ControlNet for now. Let's use Pixel Perfect. Let's use Pixel Pirate. And no, so I went through, and not only did I learn about every single one of these as much as I could, but I also realized like some of these do some really interesting things that we didn't understand before, which is a small point, which is that Canny, seemingly like the most trained and the most ubiquitously used, throws a lot of extra lines in your ControlNet. And when it diffuses, you get a lot of like messy details and things coming in the foreground above the character. It's because Canny throws in a lot more detail than you really need. And that is not obvious because when you're running ControlNet with Deforum, it doesn't actually save all the ControlNet images into a folder. It just saves input frames. So you can't really see what's going on with like typically the way you would do text to image ControlNet, which partially what I wanted to debug with you, Revolved, is like how we might be able to save actually ControlNet, like for example, open pose. There should be a folder with all the open posed frames that you can save and look at as they're being generated. No, don't you think?
That would be a cool option.
Yeah,
think,
so that's kind of the idea here. So canny, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
That's something we could put in as a request. I'll
I,
just write that down.
I think it's interesting because it would really help us say, like, you know, save all these frames, and then you can really analyze what the ControlNet has done in the background. So yeah, so let's grab that video, put that into video path. Here we want to do my ControlNet is more important. No matter what you do, you want to do ControlNet is more important. But which model, right? Okay. So I think because it's a close-up character singing, and we want to really focus in on the face, let's do open pose face only. And you can tell me the difference between face, face only, or whatever. And I think that open pose full also takes into account the body and the face. So I'm not so sure like which one it is, but basically it's a version of open pose plus hybrid is your base entry for a character close up to try and get like good lip syncing, good eye placement, good face morph, etc.
Well, let's just take a quick look at it, actually.
If
we go to ControlNet here and grab an image. Let's see.
You know what you could do just as a test? You could just blast, turn off ControlNet, blast that video through, and get all the frames and show human masking.
So if I do this image that I generated earlier, we can pre-process by doing open pose face.
Oh, right, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking something else.
So here, let's take a look at what it looks like. So you see here, it's just this tiny face at the top, right? And so if we go,
so do just face.
That is just face. Oh, just face. I see what you mean. Yeah. So open pose face does put the body in, and then
interesting. It doesn't need a model. Interesting.
These are pre-processors. Yeah. So this has hands. Notice when you do open pose full, it has hands in there, but they're a little jank, honestly. And then open pose hand has like, whoa, sorry.
Whoa.
I can't. Jeez. Okay. Open.
It's a little confusing, but yeah, I guess it's the body plus the hands. Okay.
But no face thing.
But no face.
I think what we want is just open pose face. Now there is also media pipe face.
So how do you run that on Run? So no model.
Oh, okay. I think we need to add that in. There's a. I thought it was.
I was going to tell you about that. Yeah, media, because it's a separate download.
Yeah, we just so adding that node in, that media pipe face isn't working. All right. We will get it. We will get it. All right. So we're going to stick with
love it. This is good.
Open pose face for our.
So look, she has a face and she has hands, right? So maybe we want to do hands and face. Yeah. Okay.
Open pose face. Okay.
Okay. And yeah, so ControlNet is more important. And resize mode, just resize. And loopback, honestly, I still haven't figured out exactly how it works. I sort of am grasping it, but it's not perfect yet.
Yeah, mostly using that. There is a loopback script in image to image which you would use, but this would be mostly for taking a generated image and then looping it back in. So
yeah, but what happens is, you remember the color things that I posted in channel, the beautiful kind of the girl in the field with all the cool colors and grass a little while back? I was trying that and it was looping back on that image, and it almost looks like it's like just morphing and stretching an image is what happens when you use like a loop back. But
that's probably the resize mode thing. Okay, so this is something that gets a lot of people, so I just want to talk about it because settings is so important. So if we type in here where we want to save our settings, so it's not my mount/private. Now I can put it in the vids folder, and I'm going to name it CN for ControlNet. I don't know, butterfly woman, butterfly, CN butterfly dot text. Have to have the dot text, and just hit save settings. Okay, so now if I go here, I have to refresh the vids folder, but there it is, cn butterfly.txt, and then I would save this because if I want to load those settings again, I have to type this full path with vids with .txt and then load all, and it will load without an error. So just keep that in mind. When you save it, have the path. When you load it, have the path. Make absolutely sure your path is 100% correct, because if you don't, it'll throw an error and then you won't be able to load it again, or you might have problems loading it again. Just get it right and save this somewhere in a file or whatever, so you can bring these back in. Okay, so we've got it saved. Very important. We've got overwrite input frames. Let's do this and call it butterfly. Okay.
And why don't you add a code to it that's like hybrid, one ControlNet, and like just add some detail here so we know exactly what we're doing, because it just gets unwieldy.
And face. Okay. We know we're doing hybrid here, right? So. Okay, are we ready to generate? Oh no, not quite. We need FPS 24 to match the video every time. Upscale does not work. Again, we're working with them to fix it. We don't use any of these down here. These are like utilities. You know what? I'm going to keep the images. Let's take a look at them after. And we don't need to save the depth map, do we?
No, okay. We're not doing a depth map. Not yet.
Right. Well, we've got the video mask that will. Oh no, we didn't do human.
No,
mask.
not yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
So the optical flow mask in hybrid is just internal, so it doesn't produce anything. Yeah.
All right. So let's give it a go, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Finally generating.
Well, look, these things take some time. But what's cool is that once you have the first default set and you've saved the settings file, then you boot up a new server, load the settings, and slightly alter the build, right? Like the workflow. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you wanted, you could just like load up a small model, mess around with settings until you get what you like, save the settings, and then boot up a large, and then start rolling with that, right? So that way it saves you a bit of money. You know, it took us, honestly, with all the theory and chatting, it took us a half an hour to get those settings in, right? Which is a considerable amount of time. But if you're on a smaller server, it won't cost you as much, save you a bit.
So I guess what we can do while this is cooking is we can talk about this oscillation of different values.
Well, so, one thing before you get into that, I'm just noticing this right away, and it always gets me. So our strength is 0.65, which is, if you really want to know what it is, it's essentially denoising. And the denoising is the opposite of that. So our denoising is 0.35 because our strength is 0.65. That's the way it works. And so here, and our image in it, our strength is 0.8, which means the first frame is going to be more like the original. This is like a denoising 0.2, essentially. So if we want it to look the exact same throughout the video, we would need to change this image in it. I know, but it's because we have first frame as init image checked. So if you go here, you need to change the strength to 0.65 so it's a smooth thing. So that's one thing we missed. Unfortunately, I always do that. But here, now we will get it on the next generation. If you change the strength, you need to change the image in it. Okay.
Okay.
Oscillation time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this, you tell me, but it definitely verges on a lot of theory here, because like I used to have ideas about how this works, but it changes, because if you change one thing and start playing with it correctly, then you have to alter the other thing. And when I say thing, I mean like strength, CFG, seed scheduling, and comp mask alpha. These three values, like in tandem, started changing the way I've like thought about things before. But I do now really understand the diffusing thing that you just talked about, because if you look at like your log files, it will tell you diffuse. If you have it at 0.8, it will say diffusing at 0.19999, etc. So it is exactly that. So if you have it at 6.5, it's basically 0.349999 diffuse.
Denoise,
which is denoise, sorry, not diffuse. Yeah, so that's really a powerful way to think about it. So yeah, let's go to frame XYZ, the frame sync.xyz, which is a lot like Parsec. It's not like Parsec, but it has features from Parsec that are similar to Parsec, and that other Chigozi thing. So I've been doing this basically setting the frame count 144, frame rate 24. Typically, yeah, punching values in is a total mess. So I've just been like using up arrow, if you can.
Mm-hmm. Oh, frame count, not 24. 144.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then so this is what we're going to try and do. Like we're going to try and consider like how we want to approach this. So what do we want to diffuse? What do we want to oscillate first? Is it strength? So strength. Let's say we want to oscillate it. What?
Didn't you have something specific? Oh, was it strength?
I'm just going to show I can show how we can figure this out together, or we can paste values, whatever you want.
No.
I'm just trying.
Wasn't there another setting that you had in here that it wasn't strength? It was hybrid. Oh, comp alpha mask.
Yeah, but I think like we should hit that at the very end after we've messed with strength, CFG, and seed, because I think seed scheduling is extremely interesting. I mean, I've been a little bit stealing conceptually what some other software does and try and reintegrate it in here. So yeah, so basically, let's say we want to oscillate between 0.65 and 0.85 in terms of strength. So what we would do here is we create the amplitude would be 0.2. And then we'd make the shift up or down to 0.6. 0.8.
No, wait.
You want to look at the top left and you'll see what's going on with it.
Let's go into high right now.
Yeah, but you want to basically, the amplitude is the oscillation, and you want to shift it to the point where it's at and where you need it at. That's what I've been looking at.
If we wanted to do up to 0.65, if we did 0.6, then it would go to a max of 0.8 because the amplitude is up.
Yeah, so I was going to say you got to change the amplitude back to like 0.1 and make it a little bit smaller. That's kind of what I messed with. Yeah, so now that's 5 to 7. So push that shift up again.
Oh wait,
a little more.
Yeah, 7 there. 0.6 to 0.8.
Yeah, so let's reduce the amplitude even more. Let's make this 0.05 amplitude and then push it up to 7.5. So this is how you zero in on the value that you want, because you're trying to look at the top left corner. So it's 0.7 to 0.8. So now you're basically doing a very simple cosine wave through 0.7 to 0.8, which means, right, denoising strength, right, 0.2 to 0.3 denoising strength, if you want to look at it like that. And then
I just so you know, if you're not following along, it's okay. Level has like spent so much time in Deforum working through this stuff, and I know like the concepts are just like they're coming at you super fast. So like we're like, this is strength, but strength is actually denoising, and we're now going to take a wave and like oscillate this thing. So like, don't worry about it.
Ask questions. Ask questions.
Honestly,
yeah, ask questions.
A lot of the time, like one of my favorite characters on a TV show is Holden from The Expanse. If you know, he's like kind of an annoying character at the start, and he like develops. But The Expanse is an amazing show. But there's one scene where you know, there's like a giant explosion or something on a ship, and then you know they're debriefing Holden, and he's like, "What the hell happened in there?" And then the guy's like, "I saw a button and I pushed it." And the guy's like, "That's really how you go through life, isn't it?" And I kind of identify with that. A lot of the times I'm just like, I don't know, let's try it out. And that's like a really good way to learn this stuff, is to just be curious. Now, the problem is the people who go into the system and are like, I'm going to press every cool button I see all at once. And that doesn't work. So you see this a lot with people who come into RunDiffusion and they're like, oh, I have this YouTube tutorial where it's like, it's a normal video and then it switches and there's this like camera spin and then like everyone's a zombie and like, it's a cool tutorial. But if you're trying to do that all in one go, when you don't understand the software, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to get errors. And it's really hard to learn that way because you don't know what's going wrong. And, you know, we don't mind that. I mean, it's great. People are excited about the platform and want to learn about it, and we want to support those people. But we often have to tell them, like, slow down, try one thing at a time, and slowly build your way up. Understand what each of these do by doing like a normal generation and then changing one thing. So that's what we did here, right? We've got one ControlNet. We've got hybrid. For us, we already know hybrid a little bit, so we know it looks good, and Level's like guiding us through, helping us with that. But we've got, like, if you don't know hybrid, start with just trying a hybrid, then be like, oh, okay, that's what that looks like. Then add a ControlNet. Oh, that's what that looks like. It seems counterintuitive because you're like, a lot of people when they're new as well, they're like, oh, the timer, it's like stressing me out, and like I'm worried about it. So like just understand, like, it is different than credits, and there's advantages to the timer over credits, which is that when you have the timer, like, you can actually experiment a little bit more, which may seem counterintuitive, but you're not paying credits for each generation. Instead, you like have time to try different things out without using credits. So just think
It's
about
quite
that.
affordable. It's quite affordable, and if you don't mind me just elaborating a tiny bit on that, because you did point out kind of the issue with it all. But I think two things. One, this is a super advanced tutorial, by the way, using FrameSync, which is not really RD. It's like a completely different website to do oscillations like this. Basically, using kind of music techniques and audio techniques to randomize seeds and CFG and strength is really a concept you have to kind of consider a little bit before you really get into it. I'm a seasoned musician. Revolved does video synth. This is really like kind of second nature, and it took me a while to really grasp like what's going on and how to use this site. So again, don't feel like intimidated. Just ask questions and take it slow, but definitely understand that this is like one of the more advanced Deforum tutorials using like oscillations for these values. Then two, for someone like me, even like this was complete nonsense like 4 months ago. Then you do the first layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer, and now like at my 10th layer in, I'm like, okay, I'm testing every single field. I'm looking at every single preprocessor. So no matter who you are, no matter what level skill, at some point, if you spend enough time with it, you will get to a place where you can not just push random buttons. You can just get in and be like, okay, here's my base setup. Here's the thing that I want to change. This is what I want to get to. I think everyone has the capabilities of doing that. So moving on here. But
Yeah.
yes, this is one of the more advanced tutorials I've seen. Like people on YouTube, like you were saying, they give you the basic setup for Deforum. But if you really don't understand how the tool works, you're going to try and make one video. You're going to be like, oh, that's cool. That's all right. And then you're going to be like, what the hell? So that's why these community day and longer tutorials, even if they're, they're not good for ADD culture, but to really grasp the tool gives you kind of, it's like teach a person to fish, and they'll be able to feed themselves for the rest of their lives, as opposed to like give them a single meal. So, okay.
Oh, and I do want to say, Ali June in the Discord was saying, hey, really appreciating the help for beginners. So, it is an advanced technique, but we're glad that the people are enjoying it and hopefully getting something out of it. So I think our generation's probably done now or pretty close. So
Well,
let's
that's cool. So let's grab this formula. So let's go down a little bit. So it's so weird. Like when you first start with Deforum, you're like, what are these formulas? I don't want formulas. And then 3 months later, you're like, all right, I need these formulas. So what's great about this formula over here, of course, it's much less to cut and paste. It's a little convoluted, but it actually just takes this huge string of values and puts them into a single string. And what's great about this is that it actually also can be scheduled. What's freaking crazy is that this is just simply happening on frame 0. It's taking a 0.75 noise at the very end, and it's oscillating it by 0.05, and in between it's having like that whole pi ratio kind of oscillator cosine function. So it's actually, you can start to even interpret these formulas. They're not total gibberish. They're actually very accurate, and you can modify the formulas in situ, like in situation. So let's paste it here. So what's really going to happen is that what this does is that it basically keeps the video active. Every single frame, there's something going on. And that's the difference between setting a simple value, like a fixed value or a value that just iterates, and not kind of controlling that, between having something that's way more consistent versus less consistent and simple. So let's see what it came up with without any of this.
Dun, 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 dun.
What?
Let's see. Okay, okay. So it's like
Okay,
very
so this
close.
is
But this is the thing, is it's not, there's not like the most creativity is happening on the microphone.
yeah, but this is quite good because now we can see variance as we shift it, right? So what I would say is maybe here now we have an oscillator for strength. Let's go back to hybrid video.
Okay. Oh, hybrid, right? Yeah. So
I think we should, yeah,
so wait,
while we're
let's just
getting new
talk about
values,
it.
let's run it again. Yeah.
Let's just talk about it from the more basic, like not talking about settings, but if we're just looking at this video, right? Like without talking about a single setting, what would we like it to do? Knowing what our prompt is, here's our vision for what we want the video to look like. But now we have this video and it doesn't match our vision. So first thing to think of is not like, oh, I got to change a setting. It's what do we need to do to bring this video closer to our vision? And for me, looking at this, I know that hybrid video is like blending a fully diffused version of what we have with the source video. So
Mhm.
I want to bring more of that diffused version out, right? I want to bring that prompted version out in the video and make it more of a style overlay. We want to get that style out of it. Right now, this is great, but it's not stylized at all. It's just like a very like low pass, thin, like what else would you call it? Like it almost looks like someone just put saran wrap over our video. It's not really affecting much. So we want to make our prompt affect the video that much more. And that's what we're going to change the settings to try to do.
Right. So yeah, so basically the two goals, adhere to the character a lot, but make it as creative as possible.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we want to do that? Now, you and I might have changed this comp alpha schedule to do that, right?
Yes, that would be the one. This
But
and alpha is like think of alpha as transparency. And so this is the blend. How transparent is the video? How transparent is the diffused version of it? And this is the mix between the diffused version and the actual unaffected version of the video.
this is what I'm trying to say. So the last couple of nights, I've been moving away from just saying this is like biblical or whatever. This is like the Bible. It has to be this value. Let's leave this at 0.5 and actually change strength and CFG first.
Okay.
Because I think with different models and different things, you have to kind of pull the strength in and pull the CFG up. So let's schedule in let's actually just punch in a value for CFG and then schedule it. So put CFG at 15 and let's see what happens.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay, let's try it out. So we've got, again, same video, changes CFG, and the change is oscillated noise. And oscillated just means we're moving the noise value up and down over the frames. So
Okay.
we did not change the init value. So the first frame here is going to look the same as it did before, right? And here we can see.
But it's already different. It's already pretty different. That's what's so cool.
A little different, yeah. Yeah. It's
let's
still
pull
like,
up your frame. Let's pull up your frame folder so we can make sure that my theory is correct here, that it will make it look quite different what we just did.
Doesn't look like it.
Maybe. Okay. Okay. So maybe this is where the the strength oscillator is too actually high for this whole setup that you have. I feel like certain things need to be like maybe we need to go between like 6.5 and 7.5 or even 5.5 to see if we can pull out some more stuff before changing the mix. That's basically what I've been trying to do. Yeah.
So here we're going to go from 0.5 to 0.6. I would actually like to get a little bit of a higher amplitude personally. So here we're going to, well, maybe not that much. 0.45 to 0.65, but shift it up to.
Revolved, can you still hear me?
Yep.
It's weird. One of my AirPods just died. Is that a thing?
No, you sound fine. You sound totally fine.
It's so weird. Okay.
Yep. Let's do this 0.55 to 0.75. So
I think 5.5, yeah, anything over, like anything under 6 is going to start producing a lot of wild results. So maybe the baseline is 6. So
But
push it up just a tiny bit more.
okay, but we do want wild results.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's fine.
Okay,
No, that's fine.
6.
That's fine.
No, 6. But then I'm going to lower this to 5. Isn't this just what we were at? But this is just what we were at.
Maybe bring it down even more then. Yeah, you're right. The idea here is that it basically keeps like, because it's oscillating, it's actually just pushing in a different value at every single frame, even a slight value at every single frame, which means it's helping it diffuse better, I think, or generate better.
Okay.
So let's see what's happening. Again, there's not a perfect science at all. I'm just trying to kind of rethink how we were doing things before, because CFG being really high says, hey, follow my prompt more. And so actually ControlNet, I think maybe we can make that balanced. Maybe it's taking too much into account for ControlNet. See,
balanced, okay.
Just to see. I don't know. It could be because like I was using like a basic model and not VAEs and not things like that. I don't know how that really affects it necessarily.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot going on in our prompt here. Yeah, see, it's first frame. It looks like it's going to do the same thing here. So we do need to change the comp alpha schedule.
Yeah. Let's keep doing one more strength pass if we can. Just lower the strength all the way, make it like really low, like make it 0.5 and see if it actually draws out any details. I'm just nervous because yesterday I was like doing this thing and you get very mired in the, okay, reduce comp alpha down to 1.15. And then you've lost control of the original character. And so some of the best results I had yesterday, like I was saying, was keeping it oscillating around 0.5 and even 0.6 in some instances. So I was like, I was completely thrown off my game yesterday by the results I was getting.
Okay,
thrown off the stuff that we've talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're thinking about this right, because
so one of the things is the init image strength actually affects things quite a bit, because if you think it's starting at this, so even though oh, there we go. Now we're getting something.
Okay.
But you do want to start with your strength a little bit lower, because you saw that jump, right, where it went from like, hey, this looks like a normal lady, to
there
all
we
of
go.
a sudden like,
see,
whoa, yeah, this is.
But
so now,
but what I'm saying here is we didn't change comp alpha.
Right. It's that's big. Yeah.
So that means basically we're using strength to push the style, but we're not necessarily getting rid of the old video. And that's what the huge difference is, because getting rid of the old video means it doesn't know what to really adhere to. And so you start getting some great frames and then it goes off the deep end and it's like warpy. And that's that hybrid thing that you see people, they're like, oh, it's a cool character. Oh, now it's 10 machines. Now it's 4 heads and it's a cat. And you're like, why did it do that? And I think it's because of this, because it really needs to say, oh, it's a good mix between original video and diffuse, a generated video. I'm just going to say generated because diffuse and denoise, I think, confuses people. Just the generated frames want to adhere to the original model more. So, and this kind of is where we can push ControlNet to take this cool style and stick it even more to the video.
Yeah.
So
great.
You can see she's moving a little away from the video, but it's really close to the original, and it's also super creative. And so this is where we're getting some nice different results. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we did know, like we talked about at the beginning, like this is going to be wild, like result, right? Because the all the embeddings, all the LoRa's are going to make it pretty crazy. We knew that. I am going to take out, for example, particles. Because I feel like that. Well, actually, it was making some cool like film grain kind of thing. Maybe we want it in there. I don't know. Or we could do like less particles, 0.4.
Just a note while you're saying exactly that. So see what we had to do. We had to really lower the strength closer to 0.5. to get this creative result. But if you're using something like ProtoGen or Realistic or something really basic with no VAEs and no embeddings, and you start to lower the value like to 5 and 6, you're going to get some absolutely insane results. That's why, like I was saying earlier, set 0.75 to 0.85 for basic ass, excuse my language, basic models. And for here, because you have all these embeddings and all these things, you have to really draw out some of that creativity by lowering the strength.
Okay, awesome.
So let this run like another, I don't know, 20%, and then stop it and see how much it adheres to the original, and then let's change some stuff.
Well, let's I mean, I don't mind going a bit longer, so let's let it run because I want to see the whole thing of this. And
so
funny, we have to prompt in, like, one thing I'm noticing, look at her hair buns. It's the headphones.
These start to merge. Yeah, if we don't say headphones and we don't say, also another thing that I've noticed, again, the more detailed your prompt is, the better for these types of things. So if you're like cool makeup, it's going to do green makeup, red makeup, blue makeup. If you type in blue eyeshadow, red lipstick, green nails, it will actually try and do that for every frame, and thus actually give you even more consistency, which seems obvious, but if you don't do it and you're like, wait, I said cool makeup and now it's all different, every frame is different, it's because you didn't actually specifically define like pink headphones, silver headphones. And if you do that, it'll actually do better at consistency.
Yeah, I love these results. Absolutely bonkers. Look at these frames. Like, gorgeous.
I know, it's freaking,
like that,
yeah, this is
every frame a painting kind of thing, right?
And look, if we can adhere it to the video even better, this is going to be a super original type of thing, like like bordering on some of those really pro videos. And this is all in RD, and it's great. Yeah.
So let's say that this looks good, and we're like, okay, the result of this video looks like it's going in the direction we want, but maybe we were like, okay, but we wanted to adhere to it more. So we've tried, adding in a little bit with the prompts.
So I would say CFG scheduling and ControlNet value, ControlNet weight, and next CFG jittering. So basically, if you can say CF.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So this one's an interesting one because frame sync is typically giving you these kind of like intermediate values, and CFG are whole values, right? Like CFG is like you want it to oscillate, let's say, between 10 and 14. If you want it to really I like your prompt, I don't like your prompt. I like your prompt, I don't like your prompt. Is sort of the way I look at it.
So we'll do that. But I just want to say one thing, which is, would you add another ControlNet in?
Next step. Let's just use this one ControlNet and one hybrid.
The important thing
absolutely.
is, like, you would. Okay.
Segmentation,
you want to change it one thing at a time, so you know what's working.
Two or three things at a time. I mean, we can do CFG and increase the value of this ControlNet.
Yeah.
And see where we get to. I definitely want to show you this seed scheduling thing because I really feel like it's the big difference between everybody's videos and other types of software.
I'm gonna ask what people think so far of this wild video.
Okay. Yeah, and if I'm too low or I'm too loud, please tell me. I hate being hot in the mic. Hot in person, fine. Hot on the mic, not good.
Hot in running your GPUs, not
yeah, exactly. My room, my furnace room with all my GPUs.
So here we're gonna shift it up to 9. Okay, so
there you go. So this is cool.
Now if we
but this doesn't actually need a sinusoidal function. This can be a square wave, right? This doesn't need any bend either, like because there's no I don't think that does it recognize CFG like 10.5?
Well, no, but look, 10, 9, 8, like it's doing it. It's doing it on the lines, right? But we don't want it to go to 5. What we want to do is have it between 13 and 9.
Which means it's closer to what you want it to be, and if you want it to be really wild and crazy, you can go down to 2 to 5, and then it'll just say like, I don't care about your prompt at all. Just here's super creative stuff.
Yeah. So here we're going from 7 to 11. So now we just want to shift it. Whoops, shift it up to 9. No, wait. 10.
One
Yeah,
more.
minus.
Let's go 9 to 13 or something. Yeah, something like that. It doesn't have to be so crazy,
Yeah,
but
so there we go. 9
yeah.
to 13, exactly right. We just have to like shift it up to 11 because you're going +2 and -2 from 11. So
Yeah.
there we go. And if we wanted to, we could. In some other settings, we could add noise. But in this setting, because it's just going, oh, it is doing the 0.5. Look at that.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if that even registers. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. I think it just needs to be like, you know, a few frames seed. Sorry, CFG. Oh wait, am I mixing the two? It's seeds. Sorry, CFG can do whatever you want it to do. I'm sorry, CFG doesn't matter. Excuse me.
Well, we can try it. I mean, we've got it. We've got it now. So
yeah. I'm saying CFG with the integers is with decimal places is actually fine. It's seed that doesn't register decimal
right.
places.
Oh, decimal place. We can just take it out here. There you go.
Okay. And then yeah.
Oh wait, where did?
It's a little funny with it registering the thing. But I'm pretty sure that this is okay. Yeah.
That worked. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so now we copy that. And then this is going to be part of our CFG. And so the CFG typically says, again, this is closer to your prompt. You lower it down from 11 to like 5 if you want to be more creative. I was playing with clip scheduling.
Yeah.
Do we have to yet?
Well,
unless do you know what
no.
it's going to do? Yeah, I don't know what it's going to do.
But I did have good results with this model and prompt and using clip skip. So yeah.
Sorry to be a little bit of
no. We got it. We got to figure out exactly what we're doing here. No, did you want to try the seed thing as well as the CFG thing, or?
I think the next thing is just strengthen our ControlNet, and then the next round is CFG. Well, so now we've scheduled strength, we've scheduled CFG. Let's go to ControlNet and say my ControlNet is more important. Yeah, and now let's see the difference between this generation and the next one, and then we'll do the next round as it's generating. So it'll be one more. It'll be 2 more rounds here, but the 4th round we can just add like whatever you want to it, like another ControlNet. I just want to see us get to a place where it's killer without changing comp mask alpha is the point.
Yeah, and we're not changing too much here, right? Like we've just changed a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Whoa! Oh, look at that oscillator.
There you go. That's what the oscillation does, and that's actually super powerful because it's showing you like what the range is between like your video. This is actually super cool and original already, right? This is better than most things that people produce in Deforum to begin with. So not flexing or anything, but I definitely think these settings are better for me, at least.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
And it looks super duper duper
crazy
dope.
variety.
Yeah, what do people think? Throw us some comments. We've been talking a lot, but
I wanted see this like variety in the necklace or pendant. I'm gonna like try to get that a little bit more.
Yeah, let's articulate the pendant or the necklace, so and then
green, emerald, silver pendant necklace. Eyeshadow seems okay. We've got random butterflies and flowers, which are coming from the Evrika.
You are getting those particles, so oh my god, Vietnam flashbacks with the timer.
Okay,
no, I didn't mean to.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually turn Evrika down a little bit, fiery up a little bit. Let's just start there.
While you're just a good note for people, so just so you understand, like this character already, this woman in the video, is very close to camera, right? So there are a lot of videos where you see a character in the distance where it's a full body of a person. The resolution typically on faces with full body photos or videos is not high enough for it to really capture the detail of the mouth and the face the way it's doing here. So this is not something you can say, oh, it looks great here, let me do a full bodied model and think it's going to be the same thing. It's absolutely different. But if you do have a close-up selfie or an iPhone video of yourself, and you want to do a style transfer that's like as good as anything on TikTok or whatever, here, I mean, besides Warp Fusion, you can really get in here and get this going. This is pretty good. This is really close, honestly. So,
she doesn't have a hat. I'm just going to take the hat off because she doesn't have a hat. So you notice I had like high heels in there. Like, well, she's clearly not going to have high heels that we will be able to
high
see.
heel earrings. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can take that off.
Yeah.
Put in a little bit more noise. Okay. Okay. I like this. I like this. Maybe lower this down a little bit. All right. All right. I'm messing around with it. Let's get another video going.
Exactly. So we didn't change a lot. Right now we've changed CFG. So it's going to say my prompt is more important. My prompt is a little less important. My prompt is more important, etc. But it's also doing strength and saying, okay, diffuse a bit more, diffuse a bit less, diffuse a bit more, diffuse a bit less, or denoise rather. And that's why you're getting the super creative, a little bit less creative, super creative. And the thing
in
is,
it is 0.5. So now we've got the image properly diffusing in the first one, although hilariously it did make a second face there. But that will make it
did you
much
do
more
one
consistent.
next to woman? You can do one, that the number one without a space next to the character to try and help it.
Oh yeah, that will
than...
only work with certain models, but yes.
Okay, right.
All right,
Oh,
very
no.
cool. Actually, we'll do this.
Yeah, so what do you think? You think we should let's get our seed scheduling here, and I'm going to show you something really interesting here. So the reason there's so much jitter, even though this is pretty consistent to some degree, is because of the seed. So right now, by default, seed iterates. So it takes random seed and it just iterates and throws you seed after seed after seed after seed. And the idea behind seed, right, is that it's trying to find this latent space and define a certain set of images from that particular seed. So logically, you'd want to think, oh, I want to set the seed to be a persistent seed or a consistent fixed seed. But if you do that, the image, the video basically deep fries or overcooks. It gets that really intense grain. So what I was trying to do is basically oscillate the seed so that you get a bunch of the same seed for a few frames, and then a few frames later it changes the seed and it goes for a few frames, and then for a few frames it changes the seed. And you'd think you could just do that normally with the setting, like iterate, ladder, or alternate, but that's not actually true. You have to actually seed schedule, and you have to do it. You can either do it manually or you can do it with this oscillator variant.
Okay, so we're going to go into seed here.
So maybe it might be worth showing what just fixed seed does. But so if you click schedule, so this is where you, if you were doing guided images, you would have to do this, and then you get this weird default param here. And for me, basically what I just do is delete the whole thing and start over. But you can either put a single seed and say, let's say it's 5, or whatever maybe, and that's it. So at frame 0, it's going to say seed 5, and if we ran it, it would look awesome, and then it would cook.
And what we mean by cook is it's like all of a sudden the lines would become more obvious, the like colors would start to bleed out, and it would just be like looking like yeah, like you put it under the microscope, froze it, and it started like mold started growing on it. I don't know. There's lots of different ways to look at it. We just call it cooking. And so I think what we want to do is a square wave here, right? Because then we're holding it to a certain value and shifting it to another value. Well, that would be iterate. I don't know what would you do? Like how I'm curious how you would schedule this.
I was working on it yesterday, and I got it to the degree where it was like it was a few frames of 5, and then it was a few frames of 6, and then it was a few frames of 7. So it's kind of like it needs to be whole numbers, or at least that's what I think. And then what I was doing was a square wave, I guess, would yeah, I actually did it only once last night, so I'm still not exactly sure how to get it. I was also playing with the sync rate on it. It doesn't need to be changing all the time. It needs to change like only a few times to to start. Yeah, something like this. But it really, no decimal places.
Yep.
Scroll down to the actual, yeah, let's scroll down and see what it looks like. So frame 0, 13,
It's
9.
just 13 and 9, 13 and 9. 13.
Yeah, so this is not exactly what we want. We want it to change between a few seeds. So
that's why I was trying to like enable a modulator here, but
okay.
I don't know if that would really work.
Maybe the amplitude needs to be a bit more, so there's a bit of more of a range. Like maybe make amplitude 10 or something.
This is
not sure it's really
doing anything
here. Yeah, maybe turn off modulator and make just change amplitude in the first primary wave one.
Hold on.
Just see if
okay,
that works.
there it is. There it is. We're getting it. We're getting it.
Nice.
So I just need to see now we've got 3, but it's kind of like iterating between 2 now, right?
Let's look at what the code is at the bottom.
Here we go. 8, 14, 23, 10, 5, 5, 5.
Okay,
10,
okay. This is good. Anything that just varied.
14. Yeah.
You just don't want a seed to remain on screen too long, and you don't want it to be the same 2 seeds. So we basically hit those values.
Okay. So what for the benefit of everyone, because I know I just did something super weird, but basically we're taking a wave, right, which is our square, so it's on off signal, right? Or in our case, seed 1, seed 2, seed 1, seed 2, seed 1, seed 2. And then we're putting in a modulator, which is mixing a second wave in. And the second wave, you just mess around with it until it kind of looks cool. And here in this case, we've got like, because of the second wave, it adding in like a different seed setting here. So the sync rate is on an 1/8, which means it's basically dividing. This should be 4 seeds, I want to say, maybe a bit more than that because of like some of the different settings. But we're going to take this, copy it, and just put it in here. And now we can modify it if we need. Copy keyframes, and then we can like actually manually adjust these if we need to.
Sure. That's a good idea. I know how complicated this looks to most people. It doesn't need to be this complicated, but I would definitely say when it defaults to iterate seed, you're actually just like it defaults to a very random set of images that it's going to diffuse. So you have to really start to mess with these fixed random ladder alternate, and then you start to realize you're like, no, I need to schedule the seed manually the way I want to. So that's why we're here, where we're basically taking a formula and saying, I want the seed schedule to change over time.
Yep. We're pretty close to what we want. Maybe not perfect, but I don't think these spaces matter. Just making it look nice. And we're almost good. So do you want to add in, like, we're going to run this and then do another ControlNet? Is that what you're thinking?
I think it's probably worth just showing how seed starts to cook it, but it also starts to keep it more consistent with the character. So that's why I think I need to show. I don't need to do anything, but I think it's important because the seed basically says, no, it's the same character, but in a slightly different frame. And then in a few frames, it says, oh, change the seed. And even though it changes that frame, if your prompt and all your settings are correct, that next one looks like it kind of fits in the sequence and your eye doesn't. So you're basically having a lot more consistency through the video at the cost of potentially burning it out. That's the whole trade-off. So you got to find the balance between like not burning it, but also getting enough variance, but also getting consistent seed.
One thing I noticed is her hair is a lot curlier, which is actually pretty significant to like this Laura, which I'll show you a picture of. And let me show you actually some pictures that I did the other day with this Laura. So yeah, this is like kind of the Laura style. And I made some pictures here the other day using it. So you see how the hair is like very curly.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Super
and
cool.
very, very wild Laura, right? There's some cards I did for the
So nice. Wow.
yeah, so it's really interesting. I think you have to support them on their Ko-fi for this one. But yeah, Proxima Centauri B. And then it is kind of cool, but it's getting like almost too curly. So we're going to lower that down to 5 and maybe make it a little bit more anime like we did in our picture. So bring this up to 6. And then the liquid light, I'm finding it's making all these little circles. So let's put that down to 3, but we're going to increase marbling art to 8 and give that a go. Okay, so let's take a look at our video. Excellent.
You want to full
Whoa.
screen it so we can see it? Yeah.
I can't full screen from here, unfortunately. I need to download it. Here.
But look, I mean, this is super duper cool.
Yeah.
Like different and more adherent, but also super creative, and it's not using typical settings. So I feel like it's the next step forth. It's getting, and this to me, having been using Warp for a few weeks now, this is closer to Warp than Deforum typically does. So that's what I'm trying to help achieve here, like open source it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like conceptually.
A lot of people have asked like if they could get Warp Fusion on our service. So this is a way that you can get like equivalent or better results than from Warp. I really like the like. I think the one thing I would change actually, just out of personal choice, is to get the strength just even a little bit lower, so that
it's more creative or less creative.
Like less amplitude and a little bit lower for more creative.
Okay.
I think because I like the wings that pop. There's like wings that are popping in here. There's like you know.
It might be worth like I don't know running just one test with just the seed thing and this just put them side by side. I do want to say one thing just about Warp. It's phenomenal, and the things that are missing from this, I feel like I don't know. You tell me if I can talk about it. Like I don't want to. You know, I love Warp Fusion's brilliant, and I don't want to leak all the secrets, but conceptually, it's everything that we want, but it's also like not perfect yet. But there are a couple of things that I would say that ultimately might come into Auto 11 and Deforum in general that will help not only like image creation and training, but also video, which is content aware scheduling. So like a field that says, hey, process this whole video first in terms of like what's in every single frame. And then before you generate, now you know what's in every frame. So every frame it has a lot more consistency. So that's like one of the things that's completely missing from Deforum right now. Hybrid tries to replicate it, but it doesn't do it in an aware way. And that's a pretty big one. And the other one is motion vectors, which is like another thing that maybe ControlNet will ultimately have, which is understand every frame it's looking at and being like, oh, now I know that this person is waving their arm from one side to another, and this is where the motion vector would be, and it kind of makes it even more consistent.
Yeah,
but then everything else is
better over time for sure. So I think this is the amplitude. So because we have to edit the actual thing here, because I can't unfortunately paste it back in and then figure it out. Maybe if you're going to do this and you're going to do multiple equations, what I'd recommend is open multiple copies of FrameSync, the web page, and then do each one on a separate page. So then you can edit
or
them.
save them, or save them on the left. You can save your preset.
Oh yeah. That's next time I'll do that. I didn't even realize that. So in this case, I think we had 0.5, right? So
correct. Maybe just change the oscillator, not the 0.5. Just make it like 0.02 over there, or 0.03, or 0.04, or 0.05 in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So 0.5, something like that.
Yeah. So it's a little bit less, and see what.
Because this is the amplitude of the wave, which is how high it's going up and down. So if we lower that, then it will keep it closer to 0.5, which the problem is that it's going like too high in some cases, in my opinion. Okay, so got some cool results. Looks like she's holding the microphone there, which is funny. Do we want to add in another ControlNet?
I think it's probably time, yeah. So now we can really, but what's so cool here is, think about it. We've prioritized strength, CFG, and seed over all the settings in hybrid and ControlNet, which I think is really a different way to look at it, a better way to look at it, because ControlNet and hybrid are so powerful, and they kind of do these things that you're like, wait, why did that do that? Or like, how did that affect that? And I think it's super important, just like right out the box, super basic open pose, super basic hybrid, dial in your CFG, your strength, your seed, get it as perfect as possible. And now if we add ControlNet to, holy crap, now you're really, now you're taking it to this even further level. So I don't know, that's how I was trying to look at it this week, and just change my approach.
Okay. Should we put a depth model in? What are you thinking for the second ControlNet?
So depth, normal, I think soft edge is probably the thing I would put in. And that would be a head model. So I put head and then soft edge, which took me a while to figure out, but there it is. Yeah.
Oh,
Soft
yeah.
edge
Awesome.
soft edge used to be called head, but soft edge is like line art meets canny. So it's a softer, more outline. It's an outline of a character with a little bit of bleed, a little bit of canny, a little bit of line art. So it's kind of it's really, that's what, again,
Where is it here?
certain
What am I
things that
looking
I've
for?
discovered.
Head. Oh, soft edge head. And then soft edge.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's look at it.
Like this.
Isn't that cool? So it's a little depth, it's line art, but it's not as noisy as canny. If you run a canny, you'll see that canny becomes a little too sharp. The lines are too sharp, and then when it diffuses, it makes really ugly artifacts. This makes a waste.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I see. Because it's got the really strong outlines of things, which will help quite a bit. Okay.
And that's why you can use soft edge and then pull back the amount that soft edge is affecting the result to really control it better even.
And this is soft edge head safe.
I don't understand the safe thing. Is that a tensor thing? I can't really figure it out.
Well, look, it's got
More
it's like
contrast, right? It's just higher
more
threshold.
contrast. Yeah, can I, excuse me, do the thing. Windows.
See, when AI
AI
does this properly, then I'll know AI is good. But
there we go. Yeah, right.
There you go.
So it's sharper, and the grays are more defined. Yeah, so just like way higher contrast.
Do you want to throw a canny and a line art to just look at them? Same thing.
Sure.
Because I think that people tend to look up ControlNet and they see canny. Everybody, all the Olivia videos and the AI entrepreneur, like people use canny typically because it's the most trained. But look at what it does. Yeah, so super interesting to get away from the basics. So this looks like it's going to yield great results, but actually it doesn't as much as soft edge, for example.
It really depends. And part of this reason is this like low threshold, high threshold thing. So as you notice, when you change this, like you see how different parts of it are appearing and disappearing on the image there. Like, look, high threshold. Now there's much less detail, right? If I go low threshold. So this like will really change things. And you notice it's just like total gaps appearing in there and stuff like that.
But that's what I mean. So yeah, if you pull back on canny, it loses logical detail and it keeps messy detail. Like it keeps that whole front bustier thing, but it actually loses parts of the. Anyway, long story short, soft edge is a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I like soft edge head. It's getting good detail on the face too in this one. So that's important since we are doing a face. So let's try that. We will do soft edge head, same weight. We need the path of the video, which we can just copy from here. Pop it in.
And I might actually reduce the weight on this. I don't know, maybe,
yeah, we can
make it like 0.8 weight schedule. Again, this is a whole thing that I was thinking, gosh, you can schedule the weight too. You can
Yeah,
oscillate how
making an
much
oscillator
control.
there. Oscillate all
Oh
the
my God.
things.
Oscillate all the way. What's it called? We didn't oscillate the comp alpha mask. That's the one I forgot
Well, yeah,
in
we didn't
hybrid.
really touch that one at all. Um, yeah, I love this. Like, I think the results are really crazy, really awesome. Colors are wild.
I
The
kind of would. Okay, you tell again. I don't mind you shooting down my ideas, but I'm just saying, what do you think about like running a quick test of like moving the comp alpha slider to one to 0.1 and to 1, and just seeing like because I don't know, but I think like it would be fascinating to understand how that works. Like, why is this at 0.5, but
well,
it's basically completely changing the video?
we can't do another 3-hour stream. So unfortunately, we're at almost at the 2-hour mark right now. So we'll probably have to wrap it up pretty soon here. Maybe we can try this last one and see how it goes. And yeah, we will post our results of these videos in the Deforum section. And
Again, if
yeah,
you're part of the Creators Club, I said it earlier when I was probably muted, but go to the Creators Club thing and look up my post, which actually has a sample video, this exact video that Revolved posted, and look up powerful style transfer. And you can actually look up, see all the settings kind of outlined there if you want to try these. Love to see people's results.
yeah, one thing that I would be interested in this is like maybe get a background in there or something. But it's looking pretty dang cool. Yeah, I love the
So,
result of this.
so a super powerful thing, right, is if you run this hybrid thing with human masking, and you take that video, that human masked video, and you take this rendered video and bring them
Mm,
into like an After Effects or DaVinci or whatever, you can use that video to reduce the amount in the background just by a
right.
little bit, like, or completely take out the background, make the studio what it was, and just diffuse the character within the mask. And I think it's like, it's definitely a powerful method.
Awesome. Well, maybe next time instead of Twitter, we'll do Twitch, and then we'll start our Bob Ross diffusing channel.
Hell yeah, I was thinking about reviving my Twitch channel.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look. We just got it. I will download it first.
So let's make a note, like what was in this. This has seed scheduling, right?
Yeah. Oh, you can see it freezing. It's almost like a little bit of a freeze frame thing happens, hey?
So that's basically as if the seed is it's running for 5 frames, those frames will be the exact same model. Like that's what I think is happening. That's why it looks like it's freezing. So yeah.
Wait a
But look at the
second.
consistency here.
This is how Dazarnok made that crazy hair video, isn't it?
I feel like we're dialing in some of these settings.
We were wondering, there's a community member named Dazarnak who made these like insane videos, and LevelBevel and I were like, what the heck is that? And like, they were light on the details about what they use. They're like mostly Deforum and like some like CapCut or whatever. We're like, okay. But then we were looking at it, we're like, there's no way. What is going on here? And I think the seed freezing sort of does that, right? One of the interesting things about this is before, the clothing was all over the place and it was like changing every frame. Same with the necklace, right? But now
Mhm.
you see it's like kind of sticking at certain things are sticking more. So this is really interesting. We've got like, 8 frames.
The
Gosh,
mouth.
the hands are completely disturbing,
But the mouth is crazy. It's like we have not perfect, but I mean there is a little bit of mouth lip syncing, which is rare. Like if you add a couple more control nets on this, you can really get the face to adhere to the original. And you haven't messed with comp alpha. You haven't messed with like a lot of. There's so much more that we can play with here. You haven't done any camera movement. We haven't done any noise like stuff. I mean, there's so much more here. And then also, any model changes this. Any VAE and embedding like completely changes like how this looks. Like I was playing with Ghost Mix yesterday. Man, that shit is crazy. Like,
oh yeah,
so
it's a great model. It's a great model. Okay, so we're gonna try this one with soft edge. Let's get it going.
So this should even be better, right? Like we're getting a little
Yep.
closer to the outline.
Yep. And I do
In
want
a
to
way, yeah.
change the seed thing we had going on here. Maybe just make it more like this. So I'll
A
just
little
mess around
simpler,
with
you
that.
mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, the thing is, this video is 144 frames. We could literally punch in a string that was simple enough. We could be like 0, seed blah, blah, blah at 10 frames, seed this at 20 frames. Yeah. I guess this is fine too, but if you want to do it by hand, it's also possible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, that might be easier if we just go here and
At least for seed, let's show people how to just punch it in for seed scheduling.
yeah.
So delete everything except the first few frames. No, leave the first few because we can just change those values.
Yep, yep. I've got it in a spreadsheet here.
Okay.
First 10.
Okay, great. Yeah, so since it's 144 frames, let's evenly break it up. We can do like 0, a seed, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Yeah, something like that.
You can see the point where my brain decided math wasn't that important anymore.
No, I like it. You're literally, there's no surprise. Like every button you click is surprise me. Surprise me button. Well, that's all you really need right now, yeah. So
Yeah.
kill the last comma though. You don't want that last comma in there.
So what are we looking at? 10, 34, 14, 8, 8, 8. Oh.
Let's put the lost numbers in there and see what happens.
The lost numbers?
Do you remember 8, 12, 34, 26, like the Hurley's lost numbers?
I don't know that one.
The show Lost, you remember?
Oh, right. I did
4,
not.
8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. Yeah, the lost numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, 23.
That's fine. I was just playing.
Why not? Why not? Okay. So that'll be our new seed schedule. So it's going to stay at this seed and then switch. It's going to be quite a big difference versus before when it was like only sticking with a frame like 2, 3, or only sticking with a seed for 2, 3 frames.
But let me ask you, Revolved, is this not interpolating between 10 and 34? Just thinking about it now. Or is it just literally staying 10 and then it'll switch to 34 on frame 14? I just controls the seed behavior.
It won't iterate, no.
Okay.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't think so, though.
It'd be great to understand how that works exactly.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm putting a reroll on there.
You're such a wild card.
You know, we're gonna do one last one. Let's do one last weird one. Change a bunch of things and see what happens.
So why don't we oscillate the comp mask alpha by like by like 0.02, and just like at 0.5 and then 0.02 amplitude. Just to see. And this one you want sinusoidal. Sinusoidal.
Oh, and we've got the modulator. Sure, we'll keep the modulator on there. Why not?
Why?
Okay, so no, that's crazy. What is this? 500?
Yeah, what's going on? Because you have the modulator on?
No. Why is it?
No. Decimal places.
2. Oh, sync rate 1/2. I don't know what's going on there. There it is. It updated.
Nice.
Okay. So we'll just copy that. And put that in comp mask.
There we go.
It's gonna be super weird. Yeah, notice the microphone keeps like disappearing and reappearing. It's kind of entertaining, but this is a more unpredictable one, like we said. So
Yeah, so for something like that, right? Let's say you wanted the microphone really and you wanted to keep it there. We do segmentation, right? We do microphone with emphasis, with weighting. You do music studio, you kind of prompt it towards that direction. And the other thing is we're actually, I think, even though it's yielding super beautiful results, I do feel like we're like saying, oh, it's very, very creative here. Like you'd want it to, like a lot of those ones online, those characters that are being diffused, like with Warp Fusion or Great Deforum videos, they're very close to the original video. So here we're pretty far. I mean, the pose is there, the face is there, but this is really super creative. So merge, dovetailing to get closer to the original, and you're gonna get these kind of results. So, I mean, this is rad.
such strange things in the background. Oh, the little butterflies.
I think that's yeah. I mean, you could also prompt no butterflies, and then the same thing with that background human mask thing, which I was doing yesterday, bringing the human
Right.
mask in, and just you can delete everything in the background, or at least vignette the whole thing so it doesn't look like too much is happening behind the character.
It's really funny how her face is like consistently yellow. I
Mm.
wonder what we could prompt for that. Maybe it's one of these. I don't know.
I wonder if that's some of the color correction stuff. Also, we've turned off anti-blur, right, in this one?
Oh no, we didn't actually. We left it.
Okay. Oh,
Let's
we
turn
did.
it off. Let's turn it off.
Yeah.
So just put everything at
So
0.
I put it at 0, but then, like I said yesterday, I put it at 1, and I wasn't really sure, like at full volume, and I'm like, what is it really doing? I wish that the panel said blur, not anti-blur. Like what? It's like which one is it? Turn it up to say no. Say yes to say no.
Oh, and we have different depth warping models. So I'm not sure all of these are downloaded completely. -3 hybrid. I do like Zoe, but whoop. We could mess around with this, I suppose. Controls the handling
That's
of
going to be
pixels
it's
outside the field
basically
of view.
reflection and zeros will make it look like it's a set of cards, like a deck of cards.
Oh, interesting.
Like the edges start to look like they're coming away, like it's a mirror like it basically just wrecks it as far as I've seen with that. Unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe I don't know how to work it right.
Yeah,
Even
but the
yesterday,
thing,
I was
yeah, not everyone's doing this like hybrid video, trying to make this
right.
like, kind of video. Like, I mean, a lot of people are doing like really experimental stuff where they're like constantly exploring new landscapes where there's no video input and it's just like constantly generating stuff. So, Deforum needs to be pretty flexible to do all kinds of things. So not every setting is going to be relevant.
No, totally. And then the other thing is this panel that you have up is also a whole unexplored landscape. Do you schedule this noise schedule? Do you schedule the noise multiplier schedule at the bottom? Right? I played with that yesterday. I put it up at like 1.7, and then it's like producing some interesting things.
Pretty wild. There's just no end to the amount of stuff you could try with this. It's really, really bonkers.
Well, let us know in the chat if this feels like we've made some advancements with this, because of course it's not perfect, but it's definitely further along than videos from a month ago.
Yeah, I feel like this is a big, big step up based on our prompt here. This is huge. And this video is looking really cool. So prompts, liquid light, 3. I'm gonna see. Oh, I bet it's this one that's making her yellow. That's my embedding. That's some pretty wild colors sometimes. Yeah, I'm excited. This is a lot to explore, a lot to take in. So cheers for staying with us for 2 hours while we go deep into the Deforum weeds here, finding all kinds of strange secrets, sharing them with you.
Um,
Yeah.
A different approach, if you, let's say you're not doing a character, let's say you want to do a car or an animal or something, the first ControlNet, just since we're here and doing it, I would start with like segmentation. It was a really interesting one. Segmentation and soft edge will do a lot of great stuff that is akin to an outline of a person, because it'll break up the mouth where it's supposed to be if there's enough contrast. So segmentation has been really great.
All right, let's take a look at this video here and see what we get.
Come on, that's pretty rad.
Yeah. I like the
And the microphone even has a good placement. Like you could probably work that in and get it looking even more like a mic.
Yeah. The seed scheduling is working pretty well.
So you would add hands. You'd add open pose hands ControlNet on this. You would add. You would start pulling away from the strength and bringing it to a more like consistent oscillator. So once you have the oscillator formulas, just dial them in so they're just a little bit, and they go back and forth. And what will happen is the big blend of all of them will start creating this illusion. This, if you bring into like another program, you can retime it, you can optically flow it, you can slow it down, you can deflicker it, adjust color, bring in the human mask, and you're way further along. Everything looks, take this quality and add like 20 to 30% improvement on top of it. And then you're, you know, I think we're much further along. I mean, I slept easier.
Good. All right, so we're gonna do this. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here after this last one that we did, the bonkers one. But I mean, I'm obviously gonna keep going because this is cool and I want to make a great video. So I'm just gonna keep having fun with it. But we're gonna try this crazy comp mask alpha thing, see how it goes, and keep it rolling.
Just let me make a note about that hybrid video depth thing that we told people to use. Like, I realize what it does, that it actually makes like a more blurry background, and then it tries to make more objects in there that weren't even there to begin with. So the video depth comp mask is not great, actually.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see how this last one turns out.
Yeah. Any questions, any thoughts from anyone? I feel like we maybe lost everybody here today, but at least there's record of this thing happening.
Yeah. There's someone's gonna be like going through this whole thing and one day just like devouring it all and be like, "This is amazing." I've actually seen a few people who have done that, who've like come in and just been like blown away by all the recordings and been like, I sat down and watched everything. So, you know, this is for future generations, mostly. No, we're getting some good information recorded.
Quickly, an obvious thing here is train your own model on your own face, and then use that embedding to generate one of these videos, and all of a sudden you have full style transfer of yourself onto characters.
Absolutely.
What did we do here? So this is seed. This is everything scheduled. Like
it's comp alpha mask oscillator. It's reroll.
Oh, is this the reroll? Like it looks pretty different. Yeah.
Yep. And what else? Oh, I changed some prompt around lower video synthesis prompt.
Oh, right. For the skin color. Well, cool. It's been fun.
It does take a lot longer to do the reroll. Definitely takes a lot longer. But that's okay. Oh, I think this one, does it have hand on it? I don't know.
No, you didn't put hands.
It's the hand after. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, you can. I mean, you can use up to like 4 or 5 ControlNets. I mean, I think at 4 it really starts to get slow. So, but I was noticing that, you know, this idea of using canny and depth, which was part of a lot of tutorials, is actually not the best way to go. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And that makes sense to me too. Yep.
It just doesn't, it takes a lot longer to process depth maps, and depth maps, unless you're really using them to create 3D or kind of like that whole idea, it actually creates a lot more like just blurry gray and white gradient blobs. And then those gradient blobs get interpreted as artifacts or extra pieces in your image that never existed. And you're like, why did that happen? So it's not super great. And same thing with depth zo. It's like really cool, but it's not for more, for video, it's not exactly as good as for image generation. So yeah, but segmentation works way better than I thought it did, because every single frame is kind of chopped up into the correct little parts and then diffuses it into those little parts, and it actually ends up being way more consistent than that. So it acts like a bit of it acts like a line art, like a coarse line art in a way, segmentation, but even more so because it's a very powerful algorithm that actually breaks up the image. So I'm liking that a lot more, considering I was so like averse to using it in the beginning. I was like, yeah, not another thing, but no, segmentation rocks.
Well, I think we've gone a little bit over 2 hours here, so we should probably wrap it up. I will post the result of this video on the Deforum channel as well as the others, so people can kind of see the process that we went through. But yeah, let's wrap it up here, because I feel like we got some good stuff done, and feeling good about it. Thank you so much, Bevel, for walking us through this. I really appreciate not only the amount of time that you take to really learn these techniques, but also like sharing it with everyone, because I feel like in the AI art space, like that's really the methodology that needs to be taken. I think that there's like sort of in the AI this sort of like new openness, sharing, transparency that's taking place because it is a smaller community, and there's like a lot less of the secretiveness that we've seen in some circles. And that's really the way to go, in my opinion. If we want to bring AI art to people, like there has to be that openness to show people what's done. If it's done in this like back studio behind the screen, no one knows what's going on, it doesn't really move things forward. And I feel like it just kind of evokes mistrust for people who are making this stuff, especially when the AI art is trained on everything that's available out there. So I feel like, for my personal philosophy, if I'm going to be making stuff with AI art, I have to be telling everyone how I'm doing it, because I'm using everyone's common information, art, and understanding to make it. So for me, I feel that that's important, like to share because it's built on what's out there. Yeah.
No, do you mind if I add to that for a second? Just I like that idea. Just that I was going to say my Magician's Guild card has been revoked because I'm leaking all the secrets.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a little bit more like, I love that idea of teaching people how to use everything. And then if you want to like hide your oscillation value and your LoRa from people, I'm like, yeah, whatever, hide those techniques. That's your secret sauce. That's your grandma's recipe, right? But like, you still need to know how to use hybrid and ControlNet correctly to then get your secret sauce going. So I think it's important to note, like, I'm not trying to say nobody keeps secrets or techniques that are just your own, but at the same time, like, tell people how to basically achieve some of those results and let them run. So even what we showed you today, literally one variable could change this whole rig, but at least you know that this program can now achieve this level of consistency. And therefore you've learned a technique that might not be exactly how like warp fusion works, let's say, but at least you're like, oh, I understand a little bit more about this process. And that just gives you confidence, and that gives you the ability to generate better techniques.
Well said. Well said. Okay, let's wrap it up here. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the time you spent with us today. And if you have any questions, pop them in the Deforum section. Happy to answer them. So yeah, I'm going to stop.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a great week. Happy diffusing.
Bye.